And now the Rolling Stones vinyl collection that I've amassed. And given that they're probably my second favorite band, this will be relatively brief, and I'll tell you why near the end of this video. So here's Beggars Banquet. Pretty easy to get into, well-known album. This copy I got at a used record store for I think $3. There's that. Wait, it's the other side I'm trying to show you. It had this weird wrinkling in the label. I never understood that. And it's in quite good shape visually. Doesn't play so great, but I think it needs a good bath. I got this in '94, not long after the exchange, the record exchange, whatever you call it. They started opening stores outside of Cleveland, city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. And I remember there was this copy and another copy. And I grabbed them, I showed my friends, I said, which one looks worse? And they said, this one. Because you had to take stuff up to the front and get it priced based on condition. So I took this one up, and I think they priced it for $1.50, which was a great deal then. And that was that. The only other thing I remember, on the way home, we were on the bus, and it was us and it was this other couple. We were dumb teenagers, and there was this couple our age sitting a few seats up. And the girl kept checking out my friend, and her boyfriend was kind of a big guy. And I didn't notice any of this until almost when those two were about to get off. And my friend says, yeah, that girl was checking me out, and her boyfriend was getting mad. So when we were pulling away, we waved to them, because they lived, the place where they got off, they did not go to our school or live in our town, and we knew that. So we waved to them to be smart Alex. But I'm sure if he'd seen us ever again, we'd be dead. So that was my Beggars Banquet story. And then another friend of mine, his dad gave me a copy of this, which I also enjoyed. I think I gave that away because it was in better shape, but it wasn't a first pressing. First pressings say that all the songs were by Mick and Keith. This song, Prodigal Son, is actually by the Reverend James Cleveland, I think, and they forgot to credit him on original pressing. So later they changed that. At one point I had a promo copy too, which the only difference was there was a sticker here, which you've probably seen on other London albums. Not for sale. Very plain, boring, but hey, it's a promo. Big deal. So there's that. This is the Greatest Hits, Volume 2 from the 60s. Through the Past Darkly, Big Hits Volume 2. This is my dad's. That's why it's in such excellent condition. He even kept the inner sleeve folded the way it came from the factory. Only problem with this one is that the pressing's a little bit low level as far as the actual sound level, the decibels. I don't know why. And some of the songs, like Have You Seen Your Mother, have never had a stereo mix, so they're rechanneled on this, which is blah. This figures into the box set, the new box set that came out in late 2016, which I'll mention in a minute. This is a concert they did in Cleveland. It's supposed to be one of the best Stones bootlegs ever. I got this on eBay, I think, for $20 at some point. It came with all these crazy inserts and interesting... I don't even know what this insert is. Let's find out. Hope this is nothing... Oh. Well, that's not so appropriate. Okay, I might as well just show you this. So this guy, right? We all know him, Henry Winkler. He got super angry at me when I went to get his autograph because he thought we were filming him. And this is before iPhones. We were there as part of the media, the esteemed Fourth Estate, and he got really upset that he thought we were filming him after he'd said no. I said, no, we're not filming you. Potsy and Joni were next to him. We're filming them. And he actually got up and left for a little while. I don't know if he needed to compose himself or he wanted to go. I've seen him do this at other conventions where he walks around and tries to drum up people to come see him, which is fine. I have no beef with him. Happy Days was my favorite show when I was real little, and he was, my hero. But it was just disappointing. And for whatever reason, he didn't believe me that we weren't filming him. I think I even offered to his manager, look, check the tape. And we were done filming by them. Anyhow, be that as it may, this is a pretty good bootleg. Greatest Hits Volume 1. Again, this is my dad's. Again, it's stereo, so some of it's rechanneled. I think it even says electronically reprocessed. Not good. This is from E.J. Corvettes. See that? If you want to look up, there's an urban legend about what E.J. Corvettes stands for, which has been debunked. This is not the original. This is from the plastic cover, but this is on the shrink wrap still. There's a nice book inside. Every one of these I've gotten that I found in the used bins is mono, and the book is detached. This one, the shrink's never even been off, so it's quite a find. And there's a few copies where the title is, I think, across, just on two lines. One line for this, and one line for the Rolling Stones. And I swear I saw one once in a bin and didn't grab it, but those are worth a lot of money because that cover was quickly withdrawn. And I've never seen one with the hype sticker. either. This is their live EP, Got Live If You Want It. If you look it up, there's a live album, Got Live If You Want It, LP. That's America only. This is Britain only, although this is a great Japanese pressing. And it sounds good. And the originals in England were 7-inch EPs. This Japanese one is 12-inch. Both mono. The American one is basically some studio outtakes and some other stuff and maybe some live stuff, all mixed together with crowd noises overdubbed. Very annoying and strange. Some of those tracks have shown up without the crowd noises overdubbed elsewhere, which serves them far better, as you can imagine. But this EP is great, and there's the inappropriate label. I don't know where the Japanese decided to do that. I think there was a whole series of their reissues in the early 80s with this label, Stones reissues from the Decca era. But here's the songs, right? As you can see, they blew up the 7-inch art to 12-inch. It actually doesn't look bad. This is just them chanting. This is 36 seconds of this or so. Then it goes right into Pain in My Heart. All of that is only on here. And the only place to get it on disc is if you buy the Singles Collection box set from Abco, which came out in, I think, 2005. Other than that, there's no other way to get this stuff on CD. Very annoying. Route 66, I'm Moving On and I'm All Right. All those, the versions from this, are on the... they're either on Out of Our Heads or December's Children. They're mixed somewhere in there, which are easy to find on CD and stuff, and that's great. But it's very annoying that this 1.5 songs is nowhere else to be found. So, and it's interesting to listen to this. I've heard that the way Glyn Johns recorded this, he just threw a couple mics over the balcony wherever they were playing. But one of these songs showed up with an alternate vocal on the album, the American album of Got Live If You Want It. So that shoots that theory down. I don't know. This is a bootleg, or a counterfeit, or whatever you want to call it. This came out around 2010, I think, in Europe. One of the first of these illicitly pressed European ones to make it over here. Now we have tons of them. And you'll see, you know, a whole Nirvana live album from 93, or Bruce Springsteen live in 95, or a Shape single of Help by the Beatles, all illicitly done over there. But this was one of the first, and I've seen this on red vinyl, or a different hue of orange. I might have even seen black, I think. And I think I got these for $10-15 from Acoustic Sounds, which is surprising. Maybe they didn't know at the time it was a bootleg, I don't know. But it's made up to look just like a early 70s Rolling Stones Records Atlantic pressed label, although they didn't abbreviate like that, I don't think. This is not the Brown Sugar we all know. This is the original version, which has Eric Clapton on guitar, I think. Sounds very different. It's very good, very raw. And then there's this. I'm not going to comment on that. This is the song that the Stones turned into Decca when they were told, you owe us one more single. They'd already signed to Atlantic. And they said, you owe us one more single back at Decca. So they turned this in knowing it was not going to be released and Decca would be mad. They figured that would be the end of it. Instead, Decca and Abco said, no, you know what? You owe us songs. Now we co-own Wild Horses and Brown Sugar. So it kind of backfired on them, and this never got released. And this was the name of their 1972 documentary about their tour, which they never allowed to be released because it was just as bad as the title insinuates, as far as content. I mean, adult situations. There's a couple clips in the 25 by 5 documentary from 1989 produced by Lorne Michaels, a couple clips from the movie, including the one where Bobby Keys throws a television out a hotel window. But other than that, I think that the director can only exhibit the movie when he's on the premises, and only a couple times a year. So it's too bad, because the music in there, I'm sure, is pretty great. Instead of this movie, they released Ladies and Gentlemen, the Rolling Stones in '74, in quadraphonic sound, I might add. So that was the saga of this song when they signed to Atlantic. And Ahmet Ertegun, the chairman of Atlantic, said the reason that the Stones signed with them, at the time they were an R&B label that started in the late 40s, and they just started getting into rock around 68 with Cream and the Bee Gees and Led Zeppelin and all this. And so the Stones really put them into another orbit. But he said the reason they signed with us is because we were the smallest R&B label they could sign with and still get their $1 million advance. Originally, he thought Mick Jagger had wanted to sign with Exile, which was a small R&B label based in the South. And obviously that never happened. I'm drawing a blank on who some of the Exile artists are. I used to have a bunch of the 78s from them. But anyhow, the director, by the way, of Cocksucker, almost said it, I did say it, of that movie, is the same guy who took all these photos for Exile on Main Street. This is the back cover. I got this at that same store, the Exchange, the Record Exchange, for $4.50. It is a first pressing. I think it's sterling press, which is the one you want. Sterling. It'll say sterling in the inner groove. Postcards, beautifulness. I brought this album home. I'd never heard it. I just heard it was good. I played it, loved it. It's great. I played the grooves out of this. No, I didn't. I played it a lot, but carefully, so it still sounds great. In high school, sophomore year of high school. Not too much more to say about that. Same with this great album. I actually had the CD of this first, the Columbia Records CD, which didn't sound bad. This is It's Only Rock and Roll. The first one they produced by themselves after the Jimmy Miller era, which ended with Goat's Head Soup, which was the album after this. So It's Only Rock and Roll. This is a pretty good one. I think I've seen copies in shrink wrap that have a hype sticker listing the tracks. I don't know. But this has got some good stuff. Some of the tracks are a little long, but they're still pretty good. This is underrated. Here's Some Girls. Got this for $12. And you can see it's got the nice bright colors. A lot of these covers are washed out. The colors are washed out on the cover. The disc is great. I think it's a sterling pressing as well. And this one has this. As you'll see, it's got all the famous faces. Bianca Jagger, maybe. I think that's Al Jolson. Marilyn Monroe. There's Marilyn Monroe. So that must be her too. I think Lucille Ball. There she is. That looks, well, anyway. I think, where is it? Farrah Fawcett, and there's Liza. And, although I can't imagine she'd be upset because she's friends with them, or she was in the whole Studio 54 crowd when they were recording this. I thought Farrah Fawcett was in here, and I've heard George Harrison and Drag is in here, but I've never looked hard enough. Anyhow, copies with this, I mean, this album sold 1 million copies with this inner sleeve before all those people, famous people, got upset, except for George Harrison, and they had to pull this. So usually you see this, including on the CD, where a lot of these say under construction. This, I should clarify, this slides into here, so the faces can be seen in the catalog, and same with the back. So usually you'll see these albums with the under construction version, which I used to have. And it's rare, but not ridiculously rare, so it's not that valuable. But it's growing in value for sure. I'd say 10 years ago you could probably get a copy with this or with the under construction for the same price. Now I'd say that these copies are pulling away $10, $15 more. So that's it. I used to have a promo copy of this with the title and timing thing. It was torn a little, but it covered things up, so I said forget it, I don't need that. So there's that. Is this in the shrink? No, it's not in shrink. I ordered a copy once it was in the shrink that purported to be this. I was all excited, and it showed up with the under construction. But the guy was very nice. He refunded my money, so that was nice. Here's Metamorphosis. This is a collection of outtakes, songs that were never actually released by the Stones. Some of them are just demos to give to other people for the songwriting team of Jagger and Richards. And a lot of times it's not even the Stones playing on them. It's session players, Clem Catini, Jimmy Page, that sort of thing, and then Mick singing. That's mostly on side one. Side one runs like 63 to 66. Side two is mostly outtakes from the Let It Bleed era, and with Jimmy Miller and Beggars Banquet, and those are the really good tracks. Side two is actually quite good. Some of these songs were released as singles from this album, and are on the singles collection box set that came out in '90, the London Singles Collection. This, for years, was not on CD until 2002, when they did the SACD remasters, and then they released this on CD, and the British version has 2 extra tracks than this vinyl. The British vinyl has 2 extra tracks than the US vinyl. Or it might have 2 tracks that were swapped out. I've never been clear. But the 2002 SACD has all 16 tracks. So you got it all in one place. This, I don't know how or why I got a promo copy. I think this was a friend of mine's father who was a big Stones fan and passed away, sadly. He was a good guy. But this came out in '75 in time for their world tour that year to compete with Made in the Shade, which was a hits collection, which was pretty unnecessary because all the tracks were on Sticky Fingers, Exile on Main Street, Goat Head Soup, or It's Only Rock and Roll. So what do you need? You don't need that, right? Those are all good albums. You just have them. Here's a list of some of the people who helped him out on this. Wow, John McLaughlin, the guitarist, I assume. Phil Spector and Gene Pitney, they probably played in some here. John Paul Jones. Tony Hicks, Graham Nash from the Hollies. Dave Hassinger, the great engineer from RCA, who engineered Satisfaction. So that's this. It's a good album. I recommend it. And it's kind of forgotten in their canon because the Stones had nothing to do with it. They wanted to put out a collection called Necrophilia. And Bill Wyman, I think, helped compile that, and the record label and everyone said, no, forget it. And they put out the second Hot Rocks collection, which was called Phased Big Hits, or Hot Rocks, More Hot Rocks, Phased Cookies. And side 4 of that had a bunch of rare tracks that had never been on an album or tough to find. That was good, but it didn't really fit the bill. Then I think they brought in Bill Wyman, and he compiled something called Black Box, which has been out on bootleg CD for a long time, but it never got released. It was several discs. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And then finally they put this together. And this came out in 75, and somehow I've got the rare inner sleeve where you could send away for a t-shirt. Look at that. There's also, I just noticed something here. 1700 Broadway. So I went, is it 53rd and Broadway? I was there for an interview, and I saw I was at 1700 Broadway. So I went up to the ABCO offices. This is 98 or 99. And I asked if Mr. Klein, Alan Klein, was there. They said he is. I said, can I see him? And I think they just, this is before 9/11, but still they thought, who's this crazy kid wants to see Alan Klein? Forget it. So they said, he's busy. But she gave me a little brochure or something, ABCO thing, which I still have. So that was my brush with ABCO several years ago. Here's Steel Wheels, 1989, their big comeback album for their tour. This, I think, is pretty tough to find on vinyl, but it's not that valuable, and it is a good album. It's too bad. There's a lot of good stuff on here, and this, the way this is written, smacks of a Record Club issue, but I don't think it is. I don't think I've found any evidence that this is Record Club, but that's what's happening with this album. Good stuff. Same with this one for their 81 tour, a collection of quote-unquote outtakes slapped together into something pretty great. This was my dad's. Look at that. I'm pretty sure this tag is from Record Land, was the chain at the mall. And I believe what it means is that that's the list price, and that's what we paid. And it's still in the shrink, and Keith Richards claims to this day that Mick Jagger insisted on calling it Tattoo U and not just Tattoo. Mick Jagger claims he has no idea how the U got on there. I don't know. This album's good, the pressing is good, but it doesn't sound... The inner groove tracks like... what's the last song on side 1? Oop. The last song on side 1 would be... Worried About You, I think? Or Black Limousine, one of those. A lot of inner groove hash, which is unfortunate. So that's that. This I got at the infamous Spinmore, I've mentioned so many times. That's the actual price I paid. It's still in the shrink. I think I played side 1 a little, and that was it, because I was able to get my hands on a cassette or a CD. And this is a pretty nice album. It's worth a lot of money now. This was pressed, I think, made in the UK. And it was distributed by Caroline Records. And I don't know what this is inside of here. Let's find out why I've shoved this in here. This is, oh my gosh. Okay, so this is my ticket to the show that occurred a few weeks after I bought this. I bought this on my 15th birthday. And this was the ticket. There's all the people who said they wanted me to buy them tickets. We bought 7. Such an odd amount. And that was a bad idea because then it was tough to get 7 good tickets. We were all the way up in the top of the stadium. It was ridiculous. I think this came with it in the envelope in the mail. I don't know. But that's my story in getting this. We got this, and then we went next door to what was then a movie theater and watched Robin Hood Men in Tights, because I thought, Mel Brooks, it'll be funny. It wasn't that great. And I do remember sitting in front of us were 3 or 4 Japanese exchange student girls, and somebody made some comment about, they were quoting Cheech and Chong, like, let's light up and get Chinese eyes, and then not realizing right in front of us were 3 Asian young ladies. They didn't understand because they were exchange students, so I feel good about that. And then at the end of the movie, it turned out they were staying with our science teacher, our former science teacher from a few years before this, who then much later we found out, had a problem with touchy hands for his exchange students and actually went to prison. So Voodoo Lounge kind of colored for me because of that experience. I will say there's one great song that was a B-side of this era called Jump on Top of Me. I think it's in that Robert Altman movie, Prêt-à-Porter. And it's too bad it's not on this album. It would have really kicked it up a notch. This I played to death. The previous copy. This is not my copy I played to death, which I got at a warehouse/garage sale at Audio-Technica from an employee. That one I played forever. I played it over and over. I loved this album. Not realizing that it's in response to a bootleg, Liver Than You'll Ever Be, which I also have somewhere, and is okay. The sound quality is not as great as they would have you believe in the write-ups of the time, but back then people's systems weren't as good. But this was the last Decca Stones album. And this brings me to why I don't have as much Decca or as much Stones vinyl in general. Well, I'll do this real quick. Look at that. When was the last time you saw a discounted Stones LP? This is a first pressing. It's got the fan club photo. It's got the poster, which I'm not going to take out, the inner sleeve. This was my dad's. This is in great shape. Probably my favorite Stones album. Their last studio album on Decca London. And then the tour that this was part of was documented on this Get Your Yayas Out. But the reason I don't have more or earlier vinyl of theirs is because of this mono box set that came out in late 2016. I'm dying to find out how it is and how it sounds. I wrote a bunch of blog posts about it, which tracking what's on there and whatnot. And really, the only true mono Stones albums are their first three. After that, there are stereo mixes out there, and something like this was just a fold down. You know, stereo mix just put into mono. But I loved this cover when I was little. It was incomprehensible to me. And I got rid of most of my Stones vinyl from before this because of the box set coming out. And all of it wasn't in greatest shape. And some of it, like, Between the Buttons is kind of overrated, I think. And some of it just sounds bad like Flowers, or has terrible songs like My Girl, the version on Flowers. So we'll see what happens with the box set, and I'll get that to replace the ones that I got rid of. The reason I didn't get rid of Let It Bleed is because that was my dad's, got all the bits and pieces. And then this has its own box set, and it's not part of the mono box set. The newest thing in the mono box set is this from '69, not this from '70. And I'm plenty happy with this. The 4 or 5 bonus cuts on this box set I've got, actually, because they were in the movie on the DVD, the Criterion DVD of Gimme Shelter, the movie, which was from this same tour. And I made copies of those years ago, captured them, so I don't need that. And then my last bit of Stones vinyl, you got to have this, probably my second favorite album. This, and Exile are probably my 3 favorites. And this was my dad's, and it's got the jacket and this. And for years, I would find these in dollar bins and turn around and sell them for a pretty penny. I've got one at a garage sale in Michigan that had a Tongue and Lips hype sticker. I'd never seen that before. So that's pretty good. And this, it sounds decent, and it's a great album. And as far as LPs go, and the one bootleg I mentioned that I can't find, which is pretty plain looking, this is all of my Stones vinyl.